My dear friends, we have lighted the first candle of the wreath to open the new calendar of the year 2020. We approach the year 2020 with hearts full of gratitude and at the same time excitement because God is giving us another year, another chance. What is the meaning of Advent? In order to answer that question, we will begin with another question. Can we plan the future? Plan it with all the details and want things to happen according to plan? We can't. That's one of the most frustrating things in life. We cannot plan the future. We can prepare for it, but the details of how things will happen, as Jesus said, we don't know the day or the hour. We are asked to be prepared because we don't know the details of the future. But how does the future come alive? How does the future become exciting? The future comes alive if someone who is faithful is making a promise. Somebody faithful. Although the future is vague, it is uncertain, but someone has the will, loyal and faithful, to give us the guarantee, even if we cannot predict the future, it will be bright and fine because it's guaranteed by a promise. The season of Advent is a time when God makes a promise. God is making a promise. The future is not certain, but God is giving us the guarantee that it will be bright and beautiful because He is standing by the promise He's making. That's what the season is all about. And our response to that is we wait patiently. We light the candle, waiting with expectation that the faithful and loyal God is giving us the guarantee that we will be okay. That is the importance and the meaning of a promise. You know, we have to admit that human beings are not very good in making promises. You agree? We take promises too lightly. You go everywhere, people making promises. Couple comes here, and then they make a promise to each other, and then they have that paper that they sign. After 3 months, they are gone. There was a lady, a couple who approached the priest and said, "Father, we want to file for annulment." And the priest said, "How long have you been married?" She said, 6 days. And on the 7th day, we rested. People are not serious with promises. Look around the stores, the businesses, the things you buy, all promises. The appliances this is another frustrating thing, because you spend so much for your appliances and you want to buy them and then they're broken. But you were promised they're okay. They're broken. Human beings we take promises lightly. And the lesson here is, every time we break a promise, we hurt somebody. Someone is hurt. Can you imagine families broken because one of the spouses broke a promise? Can you imagine the impact of that? The pain, especially to the children? We hurt somebody when we break a promise, the guts that we have to guarantee that things will be okay, and then we break those promises. People get hurt. You know, you don't show up for an appointment. Can you imagine so many people affected by that? And then you don't stand up by what you say. What you say one thing, the next day you change it. Can you imagine the impact of that? A lot of people are hurt. So now, I'll give you an example of how to make a promise. An example of somebody who to give a real promise. There are 3 levels of promises. Let's talk about the 3 levels of promises. You know, the everyday thing in the world, you know, in the civil area of our lives, every day when human beings want to establish partnerships, what do? They make a contract. A contract. A contract is something that involves privileges and responsibilities. And so when you want to establish a group or a business or transactions, employment, all of these are founded on contracts. These are all done with a person who is knowledgeable with the law, notarized, and that everybody is asked to be responsible for fulfilling the demands of a contract. Contracts are changeable because they concern about everyday human relationships and everyday human promise. You can change contracts. But the second level of a promise that would require more than just a business relationship, but would require a higher level of fidelity to the agreement, the promise becomes a vow. A vow. It's still a contract, a promise, but it requires higher power to fulfill the demands of the promise. That is why when you, in vocation, when you're ordained, in sacraments that would require higher power, a higher energy to fulfill the demands of the promise, you need divine help, you make a vow. You make a vow. The deacon made a vow. I made a vow. You know, that would require more than just human effort, but divine help. In the level of sacrament, when during the marriage ceremony, there are 2 kinds of promises being done here. The first one is the contract, the paper that you got from the circuit judge's office. Marriage contract. You sign that. It is the civil counterpart of marriage, which is an agreement. But higher than the contract, the man and the woman are making a vow. This is a sacrament. The vow you make to God. Contract you made to each other, but the vow to God. You made a vow to God to love this person. Why? Because there will come a time when he or she will not look the same anymore. She's going to get sick. You're going to experience challenges in life that are hard. but you made a vow to God to love this person. Now, what is the meaning of that? Well, there are people who approach me almost every day. One lady said, Father, my husband is 85 years old. He has Alzheimer's. Sometimes he cannot recognize me anymore. I'm tired already. I want to get out of the relationship. And I told her, no, you can't. You made a vow. You made a vow, not to him, but to God, to love him in sickness and in health, for richer, for poorer. You are going to love. This is your path that will save you. Stand by your vow. You made that to God. You cannot step out of it. Otherwise, God will get mad at you and he will charge you. You made a vow to love this person. You cannot give it up. That's the meaning of a vow you make to God. And the third level of promise is higher than these two. God made this promise twice. When God makes a promise to us, He establishes a covenant. That's the third level of promise. It's when God makes a promise to us. He makes a covenant. The first covenant that He made was in Sinai with Moses and the people of Israel in the desert. And then He said, I am Yahweh your God, you are my people. I will not look for anybody else. You follow my statutes, be loyal to me, because if you don't, you'll get a spanking. That was the covenant God made with Israel in Sinai. And then against all odds, God stood by His promise. They were in the desert. God took care of them. They gave them light and food and water, defended them against their enemies. And when they are about to be wiped out by their enemies, and the people were all screaming and scared, Yahweh told Moses, tell the people to be still. Sit down. I will do the fighting for you. I'll fight for you because I made a covenant with you, my people. Follow and obey, and I will protect you. That's an example of a promise. And then the second one was in Calvary, when Jesus gave up His life for our salvation. Twice, God made a covenant. And this is an example of a faithful one, guaranteeing us that even if the future is vague, the coming year is vague, we don't know the details of the future, but we will be fine because God is standing by His promise. And that is the meaning of Advent. We wait in expectation. That's the end of the homily.